Good morning, everyone. We will give it just one more minute to see if we've got anybody else that will jump on, and then we will get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and kick this thing off. Good morning again. My name is Beth Reichert. I'm the Director of HCM Services here with HireLevel. I think I know a couple of you on the call. I worked with some of you very closely, and if this is my first introduction to you, then hello. Would love to get to know you better, talk about benefits, talk about people management in general. That's my favorite thing about what I do here at HireLevel, and I've been with the organization for 10 years. I joke and tell everybody that I am the software nerd of the family. I wear that badge proudly. So when I get to talk business and help businesses grow through software, then it's the best kind of day for me. So today we're talking about one of my favorite topics. I'm just delighted to be able to talk about this, to hopefully have more conversations with many of you about this. But this is something that's near and dear to my heart, from working on the ground, from ACA compliance to working with brokers very closely to try to help support them and their partners. And I just see such a need for streamlining for businesses and HR managers in the space of open enrollment and benefits management. But then also, of course, as we operate in the recruitment space, employee retention, I just feel like, again, there's a big space for improvement in relation to technology and software support for benefits management, for educating your employees and your team on what are these things that I'm actually being offered and why should I enroll in them? So I feel like it's kind of my part to also help educate your team and your employees by, being very intentional about how the software is used to do that part. And just to improve communication altogether. We all know that when it comes to employees, HR, and maybe you don't even have an HR person, and that's okay, but communication is where a lot of those headaches start and end, honestly. So going to be hitting on all of those today, but let's just go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so top headaches. I probably don't even need to tell you that these are the top headaches, but maybe the things that you're experiencing are different than others. So some of the normal things that I interact and have conversation with our customers and partners with in relation to open enrollment and benefits management. I know you probably have goosebumps just hearing me say those words because nobody loves them, but is, of course, manual data entry and how it drains time and leads to errors. So you might be working with your broker to use a platform like Employee Navigator or Ease. And so you have somewhat of an automated process currently. And while we definitely have integrations with those platforms and support that wholeheartedly, today we're going to be talking about streamlining that into a single sign-on solution that we support. How do you then take a software like that and be very strategic with what you're doing in that messaging? So having to put information in multiple sources, clearly we're introducing a large margin for error in that space, whether that's just, I've got to key in payroll deductions now, or I've got a terminated employee. We've seen a little bit of an influx in this with our partners and clients that we support that aren't using benefits management automation, is that they're forgetting to tell the carriers that people terminate services or they no longer need it, or maybe you're no longer eligible. So there's this gap, right? And that manual data entry, clearly that's the last thing you want to do is get an insurance bill and send off that check and realize you didn't take all those deductions out of that employee's pay accordingly. Chasing down employees during open enrollment. I joke with my team that said, my husband is that guy that has to be chased down, and he'll forward the open enrollment email to me because, this is my jam, right? I love open enrollment. I love benefits. I'm weird like that. But he's the guy who forgets to forward it to me so I can help him fill it out, and one of the very last ones to do it. So I understand what it's like from the employee's perspective to not know how to prioritize that, to not know, to kind of be intimidated by it because of maybe some, again, better communication or lack of communication. So I could see that side, but I also clearly am standing with you all in the front of, let's get this open enrollment done. So instead of having to constantly email people manually, working in some workflow automation to where that's automatically letting them know, hey, open enrollment's coming up. This is what you can expect. Open enrollment starts in a week. Just continuing that good communication through some of that automation as well. And of course, that leads into that communication piece. We know that you are trying to communicate with the employees. You're trying to get them all the information, make sure it just gets done. They're asking you questions you don't really know. Now you got to talk to the broker, make sure that all the plans are purchased, and the brokers are doing a great job for you and trying to help in that front. But that's another person that you've got to work with in that. And then there's also the carriers, right? When something's wrong with the insurance, it's all laying on your shoulders. So that communication between all parties involved can be kind of deflating for sure. I already talked about rekeying info into multiple systems, lack of visibility and reporting. If you are using paper enrollment applications, today's the day to stop, right? If you are doing anything like that, then you're not going to have good real-time data in front of you that's going to allow you to go and audit things, to go and see where there might be some payroll discrepancies. You really need to have that kind of visibility across the board and to your employees as well. They need to see that information, what they've enrolled in and what options they have available to them. Stress of staying compliant, COBRA notifications, right? You have an employee that terminates services and you have to send out that COBRA notice. And if you don't, that could be up to $200 a day in penalties. So compliance alone is stressful, and keeping that stuff accurate. And, in our world, that just keeps going. ACA compliance, if you have part-time staff, seasonal staff, these people that are working from different hours, you need to make sure that you have a system in place that's measuring them. And part of the difference between having a platform outside of it, like an employee navigator, versus a platform that's integrated with your payroll solution, is really that ACA compliance piece, and that the pay and the hours are in this platform and the benefits are here. So there either needs to be an API where systems are talking to each other, or again, that single sign-on source. And then competitive benefit offerings and retention. I mean, it's hard right now to keep employees, to find employees. We know how hard that is and how hard everyone's working to try to keep employees in place. And there were some recent studies that I was reading about prepping for this that said 50% of employees said that they would look for a new job with a poor enrollment experience. And in 2024, the leading cause for employees to look for another position was benefit offerings. So you've got to be competitive. There's a ton of different things that can be done and used, and the brokers are championing those efforts to try to help with your retention. You kind of have to get creative, but then you also have to educate your employees on what these plans do for you. If you have people on your team that don't know what a dependent care FSA plan can do for them, and they're paying for childcare, they're missing out on huge cost savings, as well as you as a business with those pre-tax dollars. So there's a number of ways to go down, and I could go down that rabbit hole when it comes to competitive benefit offerings, but you definitely need to think and get creative. And I'm happy to talk with you about that too, and seeing some of the other things that people are doing, things from pet insurance to, different types of long-term care plans and all these ancillary products that are really great. People just don't know what they do. Okay, so what you gain through automation and through technology. We don't want to take the people out of benefits enrollment. We really don't. But we want to, again, educate, streamline, and empower our employees. You're going to get your hours back in your day by a landslide. And if that's just in the way you have to communicate with your staff, then that's a huge amount of time back already. But then also not having to worry about sending all of that to the broker, to the carrier, to the employees, not having to be interrupted during my day. All of that, right? Not having to file my enrollment packet separate from everything else in my paper employee file because I haven't jumped on board of the paperless train yet. Time. That's the number one thing you're going to get back by doing this. Happier, more informed employees. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. People want to do, back to this statistic of 50% of employees would look for a new job after a poor enrollment experience. They want to be educated, informed, and know what's part of their compensation package. No more enrollment chaos, better enrollment numbers. I work really hard, or our team works very very hard with our broker partners and our clients, the three of us together, to be sure that, again, we're educating and informing so enrollment numbers go up. And the higher the enrollment numbers, again, people there, you're going to see increased retention. You're going to see some lower costs, lower, your pre-tax dollars. All of that benefits everyone in the pool, basically, if we have better enrollment numbers. Streamline communication and a broker workbench and direct carrier updates. So broker workbench, if I have any of my broker friends, again, listening to this, they have access to the systems to go in and pull reporting for you. A lot of them like to stay very hands-on, which is A-okay with us. Whatever the relationship is perfectly fine. But there's a workbench where they can go and see that, whether that's multiple clients, if you have multiple FEINs, they can go in and take care of business for you. So again, we take you out of the equation. And then direct carrier updates, that's again going to like your Blue Cross Blue Shields, your Guardians, your United. It's going to send all of that once, basically daily, and even when payroll's closed. So that way, terminations happen, eligibility happens, enrollments, all of that good stuff. So what employees gain? Again, I'm going to sit here and be the huge advocate for the employees of this experience. I want your lives to be better, but I want your employees' lives to be better too. Access to their information anywhere. They should be able to have a mobile app and a mobile experience to be able to go on and say, what are my benefits? What am I enrolled in? Or let me sit down with my significant other and decide what I'm going to do, what I'm going to enroll in. Let's do this together. Mobile enrollment, life event enrollment, and I will jump in and show this soon, but if I have a baby or get married, divorce, something like that, I should be able to trigger enrollment through my software. And we'll look at some of that too, but it's a really exciting feature, again, when we talk about mobile access. Quick links to portals and provider pages. If your plan requires you to be in network, or if people are trying to make sure that they are going to an in-network physician, you can put in links and different resources in their self-service portal, so they'll be able to go in and look at that. And then self-service to access to answer questions. There are some cool new features in iSolved. That's the platform that we use. That is really AI-driven features. An employee can jump into their self-service and say, hey, what benefits am I enrolled in? And it will tell them, here's what you currently have, or what is the carrier, what's for my dental, right? Or my vision. Oh, okay, it's Guardian. So you can get some of those answers there instead of, again, our wonderful HR department having to be bombarded with some of those questions. Tools. Great tools in there for them to be able to use to help evaluate what offers are the most beneficial to them. AI-driven support, and again, those carrier updates, so no lapse of coverage or delay in coverage. I had a good friend of mine whose company that she worked for was doing business with ADP, and that, everything's fine, everything's rocking and rolling until it's not. And she had gone to the doctor, and basically the person at the office there in the doctor's office was like, hey, we just ran your insurance and it was declined. You're not enrolled. And she's like, what are you talking about? I've always been enrolled. What happened? And basically what had happened was there was a disconnect in some of those. There wasn't a carrier feed set up to where it didn't send her information over. And she's at the doctor's right then and there, stressing out, thinking she doesn't have insurance, coming back to her HR person. And it was a nightmare for her. And then later on, she had a bill she had to then send to insurance because it had to be backdated. Rabbit hole, right? So using the tools and making sure that employees are confident that nothing like that's going to happen. The last thing that we want is to rattle a cage when it comes to coverage for employees, especially if they're at the doctor's office. And again, make the most of the compensation package. People need to know that they're getting the best benefit working for their employer. It's not just about my hourly rate or my salary. They need to be able to see, wow, my employer is paying thousands of dollars a year for me in health insurance. Wow, my employer is paying for my short-term and long-term disability. That's pretty big benefit to me because not all employers do that. So having that visibility knows they're leaving nothing left on the table. Okay, so we are going to jump in now to the iSolved solution. the moment you've all been waiting for. So our product that we use, if you're not currently on it, if you're not a current customer, or maybe you guys are, and you're trying to get some education on what else is in the system. So this is one platform. Everything is native in iSolved. As a matter of fact, the iSolved solution started as a benefit product. So that module is very, very, very strong because that's what they've always done. So love it. It's fantastic. And automated deductions, carrier feeds, real-time reporting, and audit support. Employees enroll themselves anywhere, anytime. So let's take a look here at our iSolved. And so I'm looking from an employee perspective right now. Now, again, this can be done via the adaptive view, which is a little bit more enhanced of an employee experience. I'm in the traditional view right now because I'm going to be hopping around a little bit. And then the employees can also do this from their mobile device. So what we do from an implementation perspective is we will basically take all the plan information and build that all in the back end. And so everything you're seeing here is just something that I've built. It can all be tailored. The messaging can be tailored, all very customizable. From how often we're reminding to how long the enrollment period's open, that's all things that you're telling me. So here on our landing page for this employee, you can see there could be a generic message. Hey, it's open enrollment time. Welcome. Here's changes to this year's plan year, or the plan offerings are remaining the same. So feel free to review your current enrollments or move through with what you had in the previous years. You can select documents as well as links to those different sites that you want. If you want to record yourself talking about the benefits webinar or the benefits product offerings, if you want your broker, if they have something they want to show you, you can put video links in there as well, which I feel has been super helpful. I know I had one client I worked with. She did that. Basically, they had some new benefit offerings, and she was of course more apt to be in front of a camera. Not everybody is, but she did a really great video for her staff. Had about 20 locations, and so having to go in and out to different branches and things like that was difficult. So she and her HR department put together a video to help with that. Of course, you can require employees to also acknowledge documentation if you need that. So if you have a specific form you like to get, something like that, you can attach that on there, or just informational items. So as I'm going through this is very much a wizard-driven format. Here I can put on my beneficiaries and dependents. So we of course want to collect beneficiaries and dependents because of life insurance for coverage, right? And who are my beneficiaries there, but then also that the system is intuitive enough to know, okay, well, I can't enroll in a family plan if I don't know who is on my family plan. So the employee would add their beneficiaries and dependents in here so that they can later select the appropriate coverage. Health and wellness. So many health plans right now, of course, we see tobacco plans pretty regularly, but now ever since COVID, the wellness plans have really are trending to make sure that preventative maintenance is happening. So with preventative maintenance, then that insurance usage is kept lower, which saves the employer on cost. And then as a incentive for that, we're doing these wellness plans so that way they're doing that preventative maintenance and they're paying a lower premium, basically, or a lower deduction. So here you can see that you can elect, right now I just have tobacco use on here, but you could also enable wellness to where it said basically, did you complete your wellness criteria for the year? As they're walking through, they can see their current benefits, what do they have elected, what's my monthly allowance, and then over here on the right, you can see your elected benefit costs too as a breakdown. You can see that per month, per year, but you can go ahead and just see whatever format you like, pay frequency. Everybody's a little bit different. So this is just a review of the current benefits. I can click on this button and it will expand. So I can scroll through and see, okay, this is everything that I currently have. And then moving through to your cost analysis, same thing. You can expand that open and see the current cost. So what's nice about this is that let's say I'm enrolled in this HDHP Gold plan. I want to see what the option is for my PPO Silver plan because that's a higher payroll deduction, but it's a lower deductible. What's that going to be for me? Okay, so then moving on down to our medical pre-tax. By tracking this in the system, again, with payroll hours and things like that, this automatically fills out our 1095s for ACA compliance. ACA compliance, if you're 50 full-time equivalent employees across all your EINs, if you're an ALE, that's required from a compliance for you to track who's waived coverage. So you can see I can select my plans, I can waive my plans. So that's going to code my 1095s automatically. There's no manual work. There's no sending spreadsheets back and forth to people. That knows exactly what to do. So as we move down to things like short-term disability, long-term disability, let's say this is an employer-sponsored plan. You would be able to see that or could put that in here where you can see what the employers are paying. That's absolutely something that you can enable. And I recommend employers doing that so employees can just see how much of a value they're getting from their employers. So something like voluntary life, you can see when it comes to this coverage, we can have it set to increments. You know, most of the time life insurance is set to an increment of $10,000. They would come in here and select that, and they can say, okay, I want 150,000. And we know that, you know, maybe there's a guaranteed issue of 100,000 and you've got to get an evidence of insurability. There's some different settings in there to where you can allow that to auto calculate the deduction based off of what they've requested, or you can put on the EOI or evidence of insurability request. So that way, once you get that proof back, that you can set that up and allow that. But otherwise, it's going to calculate on the actual amount or the standard amount there. FSA dependent coverage. This is one that I wanted to use as an example on how do we educate employees. So some of these that I've had so far don't have employee messages over here on the right, but you can absolutely add a message to every single screen if you'd like to. So this is one that's super passionate for me because internally here at HireLevel, this was something that I had to educate our staff on. And I found that, you know, there was only a couple people who were enrolled in dependent care to come out of their check, but they were paying daycare clearly outside of their FSA. So it was a matter of, okay, guys, we have to do a better job about educating our own internal team. So that way everybody knows if I pay something that's an out-of-cost childcare out-of-pocket childcare costs, then I need to be able to enroll in this and take advantage of those pre-tax dollars. So here I've added just some generic text in here. You can again add forms and links and things like that, but telling them this deduction will go into an account that can be used to pay for your expense or immediately reimburse you. The annual cost savings to enroll this plan is up to $1,500. Got to put it into words that they're going to understand. Everybody's team is different. And while this language may work for this company, it may not for another. The demographics, the ages, all of this matters in how we set this up for you and how these employee messages are put on. But we can add some of that fun stuff in there to add into the educational efforts for this. And in addition to that, I know there's a couple people out there, clients that we work with that have what we call as coverage groups, which means if they enroll in medical, then they automatically get enrolled in dental and vision. We can set that up to where there's codependency on those different enrollments and it automatically happens as well. But once I get through all of this, you can see I've got my little green box over here. I go to my final review and basically it will tell me what costs I have left. Now, that's just a quick look at what this would look like for you guys. I want to be sure for your employees, excuse me, from an admin's perspective, you're going to have access to a portal to go in and review that. You're going to be able to push through, see who's got open enrollments left. You'll see a list. And so let's just take a look at that here, what that looks like from an admin perspective. Okay, so there is a screen that's called Enrollment Management. Now bear with me because this is a demo account, so I don't have as much good data in there as I would like to. But I can go and see my enrollments in progress. So this was the employee that I was just showing. So I can see my lists that are all in there. I can go to my enrollments pending approval. These are ones that people have elected coverage that I need to approve after they did their open enrollment before it gets sent to the carrier. So I would come in here and I would check these boxes or reject them if you felt like something was off. And that's really kind of it's equivalent to taking the paper application and scanning it into your broker or whomever is receiving that. You just basically come in here and check these boxes. So I get asked things like, well, what if I have staff that aren't computer savvy? What if I have, I have people that don't even have a smartphone? That is perfectly fine. You can sit with them on this computer and on a computer, and you can go through the process for them. I also get questions like, well, I have my high level executives or the owners. They're not going to log in here and do any of this. Perfectly fine. You can do their managed enrollment and push through their coverage so it just passes it right on. When I talked about evidence of insurability a moment ago with life insurance or EOI, this is the screen where you can see those EOI requests so you can approve them once they need that higher insurance allotment. And then there's going to be some really great open enrollment reports. You'll be able to see that for life event enrollments as well, but you'd be able to run a number of different things just to see where you're at to audit. And again, take tabs on who's done what and who hasn't. In addition to that, just a real quick peek at the enrollment setup. I had mentioned different emails and things like that. So here's the screen where we set up your preferences for your enrollment period. We would just put in, basically we'd set up a template that says whatever we want it to say in the email. And here is where we would indicate when you would want to send those emails. So if you want to send several a week, one a week, whatever it is, the more frequent, the better, right? When it comes to open enrollment, you can do that right here through this screen. All right, so that's a quick look at the iSolved solution. So again, mobile friendly. They can do it anywhere, everywhere, using tailored messages, setting it all up. So once you approve those deductions based off of some of the dates and rules we have in the system, it's going to automatically know when to start taking that out on a payroll. And then you don't have to worry about communicating that or a double entry point. It's that single thing that your employee is electing. You're just checking a box to approve. And then it all moves on to the next phase of taking it out of checks and sending it to the carrier. So just want to share a quick success story. A couple of years ago, I was working with a client and they were offering some new plans to their product offering. And I was working with the broker because, again, that's really what our goal in this is, to keep you a little bit more out of it and work directly with your broker to make sure you're taken care of really well. But they had a long-term care plan and a hospital plan they had offered it the prior year before they started automating open enrollment. And then they were like, hey, listen, we had like 2 enrollments last year. We need to see if we can get any more with this, basically. And they talked to me about it. So through some strategic organization of the screen there, the software, as well as some good tailored messages, we were able to increase the enrollment in those plans by 60%, all through educating and making sure people knew what these plans were actually for, instead of just putting the big 3, medical, dental, vision up top, and they just click, those are the only ones I want. We saw a big increase in ancillary plan offerings because they knew what they were used for. Then they knew that, okay, yeah, that's a very small deduction to have that in my back pocket just in case something happened. So super fun and exciting to get those results for both the broker and for our client to see those enrollments. Okay, we looked at our employee self-service there already. So let's just quickly talk about what's this implementation, what's this setup look like. So if you are with another provider and some of these, we call them big box providers like ADP, Paychex, Paycor, Paylocity, all the pays, they will typically ask you to set a lot of this stuff up. For HireLevel, we do a lot of training, a lot of coaching on how to use the system, but we also have this dedicated implementation team that's going to do a lot of this groundwork for you. Once it's set up, it's pretty well ready to rock and roll beyond just your annual benefit changes and updating premiums and rates and things like that. But our implementation team is going to do most of this legwork. Your involvement would be telling us your preferences, what works, what doesn't work. I do have a demographic that's not going to do this in this way, or I've got grandfathered plans and only these people are eligible for them. All of those details we're getting from you and the broker, but then we're setting that all up in the system and then getting your feedback on it. So you don't really have to do much. And again, we do work closely with your partners just to make sure that everything is aligned. We have everything, everybody's in the know, and that they also have access to the system. We work with the carriers to determine their communication standards. So the way carrier feeds work, it depends on how much enrollment you have. Typically with like a Blue Cross Blue Shield or United, They let you use an electronic data transmission if you have over 100 enrollments. If you have under 100 enrollments, then basically what those carrier feeds look like, they take your paper enrollment application, they map it to that form, and then when those enrollments are completed, it basically auto faxes those to the carrier. So it's a little bit different. It's taking care of it in the same way, but the carriers have limitations on how we can send data to them. So that's all things that we work through, and we let you know, and we would let the broker know so they know what to expect. Support and communication efforts. Again, we always like to help be creative, think outside of the box in terms of how can we use the system differently. So we're always on standby. Our team, our account managers are fantastic when it comes to that stuff, myself included. Would love nothing more than to support in those efforts. And then providing with some really great benefit reconciliation reports. At the end of the day, your finance department, or you, if you're writing the check, you want to make sure what was deducted is also reconciling to what check you're writing to those carriers. So very important to have that on there. I have mentioned broker support and employee navigator. So I oftentimes will talk with our partners and clients that are already using Employee Navigator, and it works well for them, and it is a great tool. It's a great product. And so there is an API, an integration with iSolved, and that helps share that data. So we absolutely don't necessarily have to move to the iSolved benefits engine. We like it because it's in there from a compliance and triggering eligibility and all of that good stuff. I mean, it does have more enhanced features, and the employees only have one place to go instead of two. However, we know that this is a powerful tool too. So as an alternative to this, we absolutely can do an integration and API. So it helps with the dual entry, right? Getting rid of it. If you have Employee Navigator right now and you want to just kind of start with the integration process or start marrying some of this together, that's where we'd start if you're not ready to quite change that over. So you're going to share some of that information. So here's a quick graphic of some of the bi-directional feed, and there's some data that comes from iSolved to Employee Navigator and vice versa. So you can see I don't necessarily have pay information going to Employee Navigator because pay and to 95s are happening inside of iSolved. So there's still a few gaps in there, but most of it is covered here. So if you're interested in an Employee Navigator API, please let me know. I'm happy to talk through with that for you and just compare cost perspective on that. All right. The moment I've been waiting for, because as I told you all, I'm the software nerd of the family. So enhancements get me really excited. So iSolved is coming out with a really fun enhancement in October. I'm doing this webinar now, and I got to wait till October to make it go live and share it with all of you. So we have a new feature that's coming out that's integrating AI. I know it's the buzzword of the year, right? And a lot of companies that I see in the payroll space are pushing AI. For me and for us, as we work to change lives with our candidates and change lives with our employers and our businesses, we don't want to take the human out of it. But we also know how important AI is in terms of cost savings and what it can do for you. So I'm going to play a little sneak peek for everyone on the new AI feature that's coming to iSolved. Now I'm going to talk through this. It's a real quick commercial. I'm not going to share the audio here, but let's just take a look. This is iSolved's look at the AI benefits suggestion tool that's coming. So here we have where basically we're starting with the basics, where it's asking information about dependents, children, all of that. It then asks for doctors and what you plan to participate from. What are your specific care needs? It's asking you, do you have high blood pressure? Some kind of like almost like wellness. What it's doing is it's taking all of these personal information items to then traject what type of enrollments you should have. Okay, I like a lower premium if possible. That's important to me. Okay, well then you should probably take that HDHP plan, right? Here's some dental needs that I project for this year, right? I think that I'm going to need some crown work done. I have a child that's going to need braces. I have wisdom teeth that it's going to need removed. So it's asking, what kind of health expenses are you anticipating for the year? What kind of procedures do you see? With that, then it's going to tell you basically it's going to give you a brief synopsis of here's why you should elect in this plan. If you are planning to not have any high medical procedures this year, if cost is really important to you, then this is the type of plan that you should enroll in. So this has already been rolled out and in the testing phase. And here's some of the results that we've seen so far. 3 out of 4 employees say the benefits guidance helped balance the cost and coverage for them and understanding what I'm paying for, what's being deducted out of my check. And yeah, this makes sense. This is what this pays for in the long run. And there are 46% fewer questions to HR. With that, we also saw a big increase in voluntary benefit enrollments because of that educational aspect. It told them exactly, here's the plans that we think you should enroll in and why. So you can see there's pretty big jump in hospital indemnity plans. People just now know what that means. If I could see your hands, I would say, how many people think that everybody on their team knows what a hospital indemnity plan is? I could tell you my team, who does payroll regularly, does not know what all is offered there. And I think that's, again, it's just a little sneak peek. I don't have much to show everyone. Unfortunately, I wish I had a full product that I could say, take a look at this. It's awesome. But here's another quick look at it. So basically, it's a 10-minute survey before they go through the enrollment process that says they're going to put in your financials, and it's all kept very secure. No one else can access the financial data. That's been a big question that I've been asked. It's in there for a minute. It's only under their self-service. You will not have access to this survey. It is personal to just them, and it's going to go through it, and it's going to basically ask them, what are those procedures you plan on? Even cooler, with the integration to the carriers, it knows how much of your deductible was used in the prior plan year. So if you're back and forth between a PPO and an HDHP plan, it's going to say, here's how much deductible you used last year, right? You should absolutely be doing this one instead. It's going to give suggestions based off of real-time data that happened in prior plan years. Super cool. It's also going to then, again, give you the comparison, give you those suggestions. So this tool is called NAYA. That's the AI word for it that iSolved has come up with. So it's data-driven personalization, whole person recommendations across health and wealth. So you can even integrate some of those 401ks in there. So 3 out of 4 employees who used it chose to use NAYA Choose, said it helped them balance benefits and cost and coverage, and 46% reduction in benefits related questions to HR, as I said. So it's collecting advanced benefit information to streamline the process and really giving highly personalized experience to individual employees. It takes the guesswork out of it. It makes the employees feel more confident in what they're choosing so that there's not regrets later. Really, really excited about showing this one to you guys. Again, just a little sneak peek, more to come. And I would love nothing more to show this to you guys live once it all is ready to go and it's out in the October release. Okay, so that about wraps up really, again, the benefit stuff. So we've hit a couple different points today. We've talked about the importance of streamlining this, what options are in there, giving your employees more tools. We have a great open enrollment support document that really gives you kind of a really good timeline for when you should be doing things to make prep more efficient. And most businesses that I'm working with are starting the conversation sooner now to be able to be more strategic about this and to spend less time in November when the pressure's on, the heat is on, and to do it now. So that's why we're really talking about it right now from an iSolved standpoint. Here are some of the other things in the Employee Enable Empower lifecycle. And last but not least, questions. If you have any questions, feel free to drop that in the chat for me right now. I am more than happy to answer any of these for you. If you have a specific question on how does something work or what's the difference between this and that, feel free to drop that in the chat. You have my undivided attention right now. Otherwise, I am more than happy to do a one-on-one consultation with you to talk about how I can help improve your internal efforts, how if you need a broker introduction, all of that good stuff, I am yours as a resource. Additionally, you can see that you can scan the QR code to send me an email to reach out to me directly. Okay, Lynn, you've got a question here. How would it work if you self-bill correctly? Give me a little bit more details when you say that. Self-bill if you have a self-bill benefit. So if you're talking self-bill employer paid benefits, like you're taking care of it, you're remitting payment and all of that stuff, are you talking about payment? Or are you talking about the type of coverage that you have, like self-insured? Maybe reach out to me on that one, Lynn, directly, so I know how it works now versus how it should work. Yeah, you can call me, Lynn. You've got my hotline. Give me a call and we'll talk about it and see how what's the specific example, so that way I understand, because I know you guys are a little unique, and not-for-profits, municipalities, some of you have different insurance offerings that you use. Even with retirement, I didn't really hit on retirement offerings in this, but that we can absolutely build some of that retirement changes in there, like 401k. I want to change my elected enrollment from 3% to 5%. Some of that can be included too. So I know with different not-for-profits, municipalities, that looks a little different because of what you are using from that standpoint, but definitely happy to have that kind of one-on-one answer. If you are self-insured, I didn't really mention that. Again, for ACA compliance, you have to have, down at the bottom portion of your 1095, you have to have those dependents that are covered on there. So that stuff all populates correctly, and that's all in there too. We can also, and I'm just generalizing some of the additional things that I didn't hit on, but we can also pay those bills for you, those insurance bills. So we can collect those premiums and pay first of the month, first of the month. So that is something that we can do. We can generate those vendor checks and remit those payments as well, or send them via ACH for you. So if you need help with some of the payment piece, we can definitely have that tied in. Of course, if your enrollments are happening in the system, then your bills should be pretty accurate, unless there may be a few variances here and there with people not using the system as they should be, but otherwise it should take care of it. All right, folks. Well, you will get a recording of this webinar. I will also follow up with you individually to see how can I help, support, what did you like, and make sure there's not any questions. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. This is my contact information. Again, I oversee operations. I really consult from a software standpoint. So whether it's onboarding, timekeeping, expense management, or benefits, I don't care. Throw it at me. I'm happy to talk. I appreciate you spending some of your Wednesday with me today, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Take care, all.